Bobby Kim, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe we ought to start with a definition for those who aren't completely up to speed on what streetwear actually is. I mean, you're a practitioner, a seller, a purveyor of. What does it mean to you?
Well, streetwear on the surface level is a fashion subgenre, I guess you could say. It's T-shirts, it's limited edition sneakers, it's those crazy lineups you see outside of stores with kids carrying skateboards. But on a deeper level, I think streetwear represents a community, a culture. It's even beyond a lifestyle. It's really a meeting grounds for youth culture to congregate.
Why? What makes you say that? Where'd that come from?
I think what it is that it's a very creative platform. It's a medium where anyone can get involved. In fact, it becomes everyone's first business or brand foray because the barrier of entry is so low. To build a brand, to create a T-shirt is just to design a graphic. You can put together an Instagram profile. You have a Shopify cart, and all of a sudden you're up and running.
And then that basically, I mean, you didn't do the whole Shopify cart thing because it wasn't around, but 15 years ago, right? That's basically what you did. You designed a couple of things and you got them printed out.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happened. In 2003, we started a brand. My friend and I, Ben, we just designed a few T-shirts, put them up in an online shop, and before we knew it, it started taking off. I think it was largely propelled by the fact that I had this ongoing narrative around my blog. Pre-social media, this was how we kept in touch with our audience, and we're also transparent about our culture and our lifestyle.
First of all, blog. I mean, you're dating yourself, right?
Yeah. In the early 2000s, we had these things called blogs. Short form for web blogging. It was a way for me to just kind of journal about what I was eating every day, and also just us skating and hanging out on the street. Also designing and drawing cool T-shirts.
It has to be said here, I don't want to go too deep into this, but it has to be said here, you did this, you founded this company, you and your co-founder, as a side gig while you were in like your second year of law school or something, first year of law school.
Yeah, that's right. It was almost an escape, but I think we were also looking at it as, I don't know, we couldn't help not creating this brand and designing clothes. You know, I went to law school initially because I was frustrated by I was a freelancer in publishing, and 9/11 had just happened and it was hard to get work. And so when I went to law school thinking I could pursue a more professional, serious, stable career, I'm a second generation Korean American immigrant. My parents really impressed upon me this fact that I needed to have a secure job, and that's either in medicine or law. And I met my friend Ben, who also was brought up with the same upbringing and the same. Was also told that he needed to have a serious job, and so when we were in law school, we decided to put this brand together as a way to kind of be expressive creatively, but also to start securing our own path and our own future.
I imagine your parents are fine with it now, but my guess is it didn't go over too well first year of law school when you said, I'm doing this other thing.
No, what helped was I had an older brother who was in medicine, who was a doctor and was going into med school, and then he kind of jumped out and he bailed and became a pastor. So after that broke my father's heart, and I told him, hey, look, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm going to design T-shirts for a living. He was just like exhausted. Do whatever you want to do at that point.
Oh, I love that. The hundreds, where did that come from? I mean, you adapt it as your nom de plume, as it were.
That's right.
It's like part of your brand identity. What's it about?
Everyone who's a part of this brand and this community, they adopt the name almost like we're all part of this band together, like the Ramones. Or when I was growing up, there was a band called 7 Seconds, and the singer's name was Kevin Seconds. So when we started the Hundreds, we all kind of took on that surname of Hundreds to represent that we were a part of this family and community. The Hundreds is the indicative of the decade that we started in, but really what it refers to is community. It refers to people, refers to bringing people together. And more so than clothing, more so than retail or brand, it's really been about bringing people together to just build relationships and to open up dialogues.
What kind of dialogues? I mean, who are these people who are in this community that you and your co-founder have started?
I think they're like-minded young people like me at the time. I was in my early 20s. I'm really searching for identity. trying to find who they were in skateboarding or in streetwear or sneaker culture, or whether it was in social justice causes or writing or the arts, all of those things. And there's facets of that, all of those in our brand, in our business. And so I think people see a little reflection of themselves within. It's a very inclusive brand. We open it up to where anyone can get involved. And I think this was almost antithetical to what streetwear represented back in the day, which was a very exclusive, private clubhouse type of mentality. We were more like, come on in and everyone contribute something and also learn and build.
So here we are, though, 16 years later. You are no longer a young 20-something. You're running an enterprise, right? You are in a business that you say in this book basically has the memory and the institutional loyalty of a goldfish, right? Everything is hot now and then gone. How do you stay current and up to speed while you are a businessman?
I think being open-minded is probably the best piece of advice I have for any brand or designer artist trying to stay relevant, trying to keep their head in the game. And by being open-minded, just being open to ideas, being slow to judgment when it comes to seeing what the new generation is bringing in. And that being said, surrounding yourselves with the new generation, constantly going out, seeking, supporting younger designers, younger brands, even though it might seem foreign and hard to understand. It's very easy to pass judgment and to criticize what the young kids are doing. But what has always kept us ahead of the curve and on the front lines is that we've been very open and accepting and supportive, enabling of what young people want to do in terms of bringing new art to the table, new movements and new philosophies.
So let's talk about the brand for a minute and brand identity. One of the things you do in this book, you've got a sort of an FAQ at the end about, here's how you go about starting your own business or building your own brand. And you are emphatic that your brand vision, one's brand vision is what it is. Don't crowdsource it. Customer is not always right. In essence, stick to your guns.
Yeah, I think people flock to brands because they represent an identity. They represent a person with an opinion. And we come to that brand for exactly that. We are not coming to them to give them what we think. If we want to do that, we can create our own brands, which is happening more and more. And that is something that I encourage and I think is really exciting. But you are out there in the marketplace to represent yourself. I think you're unique. It's very much of a, you're a special little snowflake identity. But I think you're out there for a reason, and we need you. We need your voice. We need your opinions, and we need you to stand out and to stand for something different.
How does this company keep going if the tide turns against you? I mean, what do you do?
The tide constantly turns against us, especially in streetwear, as we were talking about earlier. The life cycle is very hyperactive. And so what we do is we are just reflective, responsive to what's happening within culture and within the industry. We stay very open-minded to new talent and new art moving into our space. And then we are just also just extremely transparent and honest and very direct with our customers. I got asked that question a lot when we were first starting. Hey, you're 1 year into the game, 2 years, 5 years. How do you expect to stick around for 15, 16 years? And I said, all I know is that I can just be honest and direct with my persons. I bring them along for the journey. Whether or not they want to stay with us that's up to them. But I think that people in themselves never really go out of style. Good friends never go out of style. And I always look at brands as friends. The best brands are the best friends. They're reliable, they're consistent, they're stable personalities, and they grow and they evolve. I have this saying of stay true, but don't stay put. So staying anchored to who you were and where you came from, but also being open to moving forward and bringing something new to the mix. And so that's what we've always strived to do. I think we've accomplished that.
There are great sort of founder's story anecdotes in this book about the first time you went to get your T-shirts printed and that whole thing, and it was really interesting. I want to pick one example though, where, in essence, it becomes kind of a fight actually with you and your co-founder, right? Of whether you wind up selling these T-shirts in malls, right? And here you are, a streetwear brand trying to make it, and you're going to a mall?
Right. So early on in the brand, it was more or less frowned upon in our space to sell mainstream, mass scale, whether that was to a shopping mall or to just a chain store in general. This was before e-commerce became more of the norm within our space. And so the younger brands today, they don't have to go through this negotiation. They can just sell direct to their customers. We didn't have that luxury at the time. And we also didn't have the luxury of capital behind us. Ben and I, my partner and I, we had just funneled in a few $100s of our own money in building this brand. We have no investors or backers. And so as our brand continued to grow and we were hiring more staff and our opportunities broadened, we needed to find a way to boost the capital and the infrastructure and bring in money into the business to support what we do, to pay for all the overhead. And so we looked at malls. Ben had come to me at one point and said, look, we've discussed this a few times. We may need to open up and expand our account base. And that was something that I philosophically and almost morally stood against as far as what our brand represented. It was such, at that time, it was such a direct and personal medium that I felt as if we expanded that fast and that quickly, I would lose a lot of that connection with our customer base. And for that fact, it did happen. We ended up selling to a much bigger base. And for a while there, I had trouble navigating those relationships with our customers. I felt like I had lost a lot of that human connection, that touch point with our base. But eventually, we figured out our way back, and that came through by way of social media, through the internet, and me just being physically more out there. I do my best to do interviews like this, podcasts, and actually just be on the road touring universities, touring shops, stopping in, and just being as available to our customer base as possible, especially if that means opening up my DMs on my Instagram or my Twitter and spending hours a day just responding and helping young kids who end up becoming the next big fashion designers. Yeah.
You got to hustle, right? That's the name of that game.
It is. I feel like I work twice as hard for half the money. I think everyone feels that way these days. But, I do it for the work. I do the work. I love the work. Yeah. And really, I love the kids. I love the people that support this brand. And I really believe in them. I think they are what constantly inspire me and push me to continue to move forward in this business. I get excited to wake up every day to do this because I get to interact with young, energetic, young, spirited youth who have this dream, that dream that can be harnessed. And so I love to latch onto that. I feel like they inspire me more than I inspire them. And that's what keeps me around.
Bobby Hundreds, also known as Bobby Kim, he's got a book out. It's called This Is Not a T-Shirt by one of the co-founders of the streetwear brand, The 100. Bobby, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kai.